Hi, I'm Al Litwalk. I'm going to be speaking to you now about our Winquist IM nail extraction system. The kit itself comes in two containers. Case 1 contains the large items including a mallet, T-handle, a chisel, a striking frame, a couple wrenches, and some nuts. Also on the back of the lid from the T1 are instructions on how to use the kit. In case 2 are 24 different type of extractors. There's actually in that set 51 different single extractor tips that are for single use, and there are 5 multiple use extractors in there. In addition to that, the kit comes with a ratcheting screwdriver set including 18 blades for removing screws both in the proximal and tibial end of the IM nail, as well as the cap on the top of the nail. The way the kit is used is the first step you have to do in removing an IM nail is to remove the screws both on the proximal and distal end of the IM nail. The way that is typically done by a surgeon is he will feel along the body, he'll look at x-rays, and he'll identify how many screws are there and the actual position of those screws. He then pulls out a tip from the ratcheting screwdriver set that matches that. He'll either use the straight or the T-handled ratcheting handle. He snaps that into place, and he'll go in and remove the screws both on the proximal end and the distal end. Once that is done, then he's ready to go ahead and open up the top of the IM nail to get access to that. That's typically done by using the chisel and using the 4-pound mallet. Tammy Wade from customer service will help me with this, but to remove the IM nail, the next thing we're going to have to do is go in with the chisel and with the mallet and chip around bone on the proximal end of the femur to open up the IM nail. Once we've opened up the bone, the next thing we're going to have to do is remove the cap on the top of the IM nail. That's done using the ratcheting screwdriver. Typically this will use the same blade that was used to take out the screws from the proximal and distal end. The surgeon will go in, remove the cap. Once the cap is out, the next thing the surgeon is going to have to do is place an extractor tip into the IM nail to remove it. If they don't know which tip to use, there's a chart on the back of lid 2 that tells what tips go with what typical IM nails. However, most times the surgeon is not going to know what nail is in there. So what they're going to have to do is eyeball it, look for a tip that approximately matches, and they may have to try several tips before they find one that actually fits. Now, if it is a cannulated nail with threads on the inside, it'll use one of the disposable tips. Those tips can be seen here in the red area of the tray. And what they'll do is they'll go through those. There are 3 of each size in there, and they'll just keep trying those until they find one that approximately fits. The surgeon then picks out a tip that looks like it's going to match. Once they check it to make sure that in fact it is a match for the thread type and size, then what they'll do is they'll install that onto the extractor body. There are 2 extractor bodies provided in the kit. In case a tip would break off an extractor body, you always have an extractor body to use. The tip is then installed into the extractor body, and the 2 wrenches are used to tighten that tip in there. It's important to get that tip all the way down into the extractor body, nice and snug. That prevents the tip from being broken off. The next thing that's happened is you take the T-handle, that goes on the extractor body. Again, snugging that down. Then the surgeon goes down onto that iron nail. And we'll screw that extractor all the way down onto that nail. It's important that they screw it all the way down, as far in as it will go. Once they have it in, they'll give it a good tug to make sure it's nice and tight. Then they'll take one of their wrenches, put it on the extractor body so that they're careful not to loosen it from the iron nail, and they'll remove the T-handle. The next thing they're ready to do is to take the striking C-plate, put that onto the extractor. They'll put the nut on that. Again, what they're doing is they're tightening that nut up, making sure that's good and firm, and then they're going to take their mallet and they're going to strike this to draw and to pull the iron nail out. Just like that. Now, depending upon the iron nail, they could use any of the tips that are available, including hooked tips. And if it's a solid IM nail or a broken IM nail, a lot of times what they're going to have to do is go over the IM nail with one of the female extractors that will go over the top of the nail, and we'll cut threads in it, lock it down like it is on this Kushner rod, and then they can attach this to the C-frame and draw it out. Another thing that can happen is that the threads can actually be stripped out of the cannulated area of the screw, of the nail. So at that point, what they'll do is they'll use the conical extractor that again will go in and will cut new threads into the proximal end of that IM nail so that you can lock onto it and you can pull it out. The last thing that can happen is if the surgeon is taking the IM nail out and they put too much downward pressure, they can physically break that tip off in there. If that ever happens, there's a tip extractor that's provided. But what that tip extractor will do is go down over that broken tip, and you can actually unscrew that tip, take it out, get rid of that tip, take one of the additional tips. Again, remember there are 3 of every size tip included in the kit. You can take another tip, another extractor body. Again, there's 2 of those provided, remember, and you can start all over again. The last thing that's included in this kit is an extension. This can be very helpful if you have a patient that's obese, or if you have a broken IM rod where you need to get down further into the intramedullary canal to remove it. In that case, you put the extension onto the extractor, and then that attaches onto your C-frame and gives you greater depth to go down into the intramedullary canal. Once you're done, you can return the parts to the case and send it down to Central Supply for cleaning and sterilization. As in all of our kits, it comes with a surgical guide that will outline the most common IM nails and what extraction tips to use to remove them, as well as a detailed step-by-step procedure to be followed. If you have any questions about this or any of our kits, please feel free to call our customer service at 1-888-4-SHUKLA, SHUKLA.